Okay, are we ready? As you heard, I'm Carol Miner, and I've spent my life in education. And I want to say to you today, as I've confessed here before at FSU, I'm a counselor educator. I had to say that as though I were in a 12-step program once. Because they were beating up on counselor educators at that meeting. So I had to confess that even though I was a counselor educator, that I was one of those good guys. But I wanted to try to, before I start what I had planned to say, I wanted to tell you that I told a few people, I was visited by the spirit of Harold Cottingham last night. And I decided that I got the spirit of what this is all about. And I appreciated it. I appreciated being invited to speak here on the occasion of our 40th anniversary. And I think this is it's a time for seasoned people, Joe and I talked about that word, seasoned professionals to meet with people who are, I see Linda Mahler there. Hi, Linda Mahler. Seasoned people to meet with people who are just beginning in the profession as colleagues, and to talk together in this lecture is supposed to be kind of a Dutch uncle talk. That's the way I would think that Harold Cottingham would envision that. Like I think Linda said, we didn't have class with Dr. Cottingham, but I knew him and respected him through informal contact. We served on committees together. We once planned a party together. And that was a lot of fun, and he was good at party planning. And I think the party was successful. There's some incredulity in the back over that, but I think it was a reception for new students or something. And it must have gone well, because I remember all the disasters of my life, and that was not among them. But what I really remember, and I have to give a disclaimer with this, about Harold Cottingham, is that at the beginning of the spring semester of my first year in this 2-year program, was what it was back then, I was designated to be the representative of my class to the faculty meetings. And I must say that there is no one on the faculty now who was on the faculty then. It's important that you know that before I proceed. And one of the first meetings, perhaps even the first that I attended, there was a discussion of whether or not there would be more requirements than previously known for the class. This was a new program. We were in the first year. We were the first of the 2-year program students. And there was a discussion of whether or not there would be a couple of classes required for us to take in summer school. And the discussion kind of went around, people need to know this, and therefore we need to teach them this class in summer school, and they need to know it before they need to know this other thing, and so on and so forth. And there's some other discussion about students need to work in the summer. And after some time of this discussion, maybe half an hour, Dr. Cottingham looked around and he said something to the effect of, I don't remember the exact words, Carol, what do you think about all this? And I said, I think this discussion is about whether there's going to be new requirements so the faculty can work over the summer, or whether the students aren't going to have to take classes so they can work over the summer. There was a sudden quiet. And Harold Cottingham him and no other faculty member ever asked me what I thought of that. But he did ask that once. And I appreciated it. No one knew when I left FSU that it was my ambition that I would get a PhD and I would become a member of Southern ACES, because Harold Cottingham was big in Southern ACES. And that was kind of his home, and he was a big shot there. And one day I would go to Southern ACES and I would make a presentation. And Harold Cottingham would come to my presentation, and he would learn something from what I had to say. And then I would be professional. I would be grown up, because he would be coming to my presentation. That never happened. I got my PhD in 1980, and he passed away that year. I never joined Southern ACES because I never was in an institution that was in that region. But something similar did happen. And one day when I was presenting at ACA, I looked up and there was Norm Geisler's and John Crumbolt's sitting in the audience of my presentation. So that day, I felt like I had grown up, but I missed having Harold Cottingham there. When I was asked to do this, I thought about it as a lecture. Asked to give a lecture, think about a lecture. And I tend to think about professional identity, big surprise, from a career choice framework. And I tend to think that you need to know about yourself, and you need to know about your career field, and that you need to put that knowledge together with some kind of a process. And one of the other things I know is that just because something is old doesn't mean it isn't very useful. And this applies to theories and it applies to people. And we, the class of 73, are here to tell you that today. I'm going on with my speech, and I forgot about the slides. When I was a student at FSU, all the parking lots were unpaved and full of tree roots. The football stadium was bleachers and tall grass. The circus was the biggest entertainment in town, and my one-bedroom apartment had 8 closets including a walk-in. Does anybody know about that? And we were like a family. Linda mentioned this earlier. Being at FSU, we learned from professors who cared about us. And it was like a family. And being in the class was like a family. Our class was like a family. So much like a family. And later, the work group that I was in at FSU was like a family. So much so that about 10 years later, when someone from FSU called me about a reference I had given someone from Northern Illinois and said, tell me about this person. And I said, well, she knows these things and she's from this program and she's had this experience. And then he said, is she one of us? We knew what that meant. When you know yourself, you need to know what you really want. and this is really more specific than just help people. You need to know what kind of people you want to help, what kind of problems they have, and what kind of setting you want to work in. One of the most important things you need to know is your basic beliefs. I used to teach a doctoral level class in professional identity and professional issues. And the core of the class for me was what I call the basic beliefs paper. I ran across this idea when I was looking for books on ethics. And I ran across this book. Robert Nash wrote this book on real world ethics. It's really good if you have a chance to look at it. And he talks about what he calls background beliefs. Things that are really the core of what you're all about. Things that come from, things that enable you, the importance of your basic beliefs, I call them, are to enable you to be true to yourself and to act on your basic beliefs. So it's important that you're aware of what they are. So I have the students write a 15-page paper to tell me what their basic beliefs are. Now, I'm going to give you 1 minute. And I want you to tell me, not to tell me, no, I don't want you to tell me. And I don't want you to tell anybody, and I don't want you to make a sound. But I think you have something to write on there. At least you have a smartphone in your pocket or in your lap. I know you have that. I want you to write down 3 of your most basic beliefs. The things that are at the core of your being. You will not have to share this with anyone. You do not have to share this with anyone. But think about this. Begin now. Did you get through? It's worth thinking about. As I said, the purpose is to enable you to be true to yourself and act on your basic beliefs. Someone read a quote, I think it was Peter, from Cottingham, who talked about authenticity. These 2 quotes that I have came from something new called positive psychology. If you haven't heard of it, you should look it up. Inner authenticity is how well we know ourselves and are aware of our inner states. How well we know ourselves and how we are reacting, how we feel about what's going on outside us. It's important to know that in order to live a happy life. Positive psychology is about how to be happy. Outer authenticity is how well what we say and do matches what's going on inside us. And this is how free we are to express what we really feel in the environment where we are. Okay? How well what we're free to express matches what's going on inside us. It's important to be in an environment where you're free to express what's going on inside you. I wanted to share a couple of my basic beliefs. basic beliefs, many of them come from our religious heritage. Many of them come from other sources. One of my most basic beliefs comes from another source. Esse quam videri. Yes, that's videri. I studied Latin. You pronounce the V as a W. Do you know what that is? That's a motto of a state. Anybody know? Anybody know? Yes.
Something like to be as you are seen or something like that.
I think you study Latin too.
Yes.
That's not quite what it is, but that's the motto of the state of North Carolina, my home. To be rather than to seem to be. That is, to be authentic. Dr. Cottingham valued that. And it was even in the, I told the people that I'm speaking with that I would not sing my high school song. Please turn off your cell phones. That I would not sing my high school song, but that was in the words.
Yeah, my son set this up. I didn't even know it was on. Locus of control issues.
Unfortunately, those of us who are older know that that's probably true. As we proceed, esse quam videri be our motto as we try to uphold your name and to bring great fame to you, dear old Central High. This was Pitter Patter, my alma mater. 5 minutes. Okay. From the earliest I can remember, this has been a high value. When I went to Illinois, I ran into a guy, I worked with him for a little bit. His motto was, things are not as they are as they appear to be. I knew when he said that to me that I could really not work for him at all. So our relationship ended shortly thereafter. When I left FSU and went to Maryland, I ran into some people that I worked with briefly, and I developed some media work with them. I thought I was going to work with them, but what they did was dump it on me, and then I presented it to them, and they beat it up. And I walked away saying, whatever happened to do unto others as you would have them do unto you? And then I realized this is not part of their religious heritage. This is part of your religious heritage, but not part of theirs. So that's what I learned. So besides knowing about your basic beliefs, you need to know what your other needs are. Do you have needs for status? Do you have needs for accomplishment? Do you need to build a reputation? Do you have needs to serve others? You probably do. Do you have needs to please somebody or impress somebody? Nobody knew that my ambition was to impress Carol Cottingham. You also need to know about your career field. And some of the things you can do are very objective, very boring, but very objective. Examine the information from objective sources, the training standards and scope of practice. This came out of an article, Counseling Today, by the way, written by the Licensure Board. And look at your profession and related professions. Most counselors work on multidisciplinary teams. So you need to know what's expected from people in your profession and from the people on the teams that you're going to be working with. And most importantly is talk to people about what they actually do. Ask them about what they do, about what they like about it, what they don't like about it, what the favorite thing is, what it is that they would do differently if they had to do it over again. Those are really important. And don't neglect your other roles. You're a family member, you're a parent, You have brothers and sisters, you have nieces and nephews, you have aunts and uncles, you may have a partner or spouse, you may have that in the future, you may be a parent in the future, you have friends, let's please hope so, the joy of your life, you are all citizens and you have responsibilities, please, you have responsibilities, you have other roles, and all of these can bring joy to your life. Linda talked about living the process. I talked about creating your professional identity. You also need to develop your career over your lifespan. If we talk about a different topic, that's what I'd be talking to you about. And remember, you are one of us.